so proudly we hailed, and the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fights, oh, the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land under the fray, and the home of the brave?
Welcome to another episode of Stu and the Nunn, your source of information, opinions, and news focused on national security, policy, politics, and selfless service. We do this by not only interviewing guests, but also sharing our own perspectives and asking you, the listener and viewer, to interact with us via texting us at 512-361-1178 or chatting with us during the show on the media outlets of your choice like Facebook Live, Twitch, Periscope, or YouTube. You can also listen to the show live or anytime at iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, or any of your podcast outlets. You can find the links to all of our video or audio outlets at our website, stewandthenunn.com.
Because we are the brave. Yes, we are the brave. We'll fight to rename the name of the brave. We are the US of A. For those unaware, that flag is still there. It's our future to save this land of the brave, the US of A. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free, and the home of the
Welcome, everyone, to the first episode of 2021. Wow, I could not think of a better opening song. I know it went a little long, but hey, who doesn't want to hear that? Our good friends from Madison Rising, a great rendition, and it just seemed, well, damn well fitting for today. And I want to welcome from the northern studio here, where it is a balmy 28 degrees, my good friends in the southern studio 1A and southern studio 1B, my good brother from another mother, Toby, and our third host, well, many times, we kind of consider him our third host. Nobody's outnumbered him yet, Mr. Dr. Mike Simpson.
Hello, hello.
Hey.
So, first and foremost, let me let me make a declaration, because sometimes we're getting the show ready and we're rocking out and doing our thing. I forget that we can be seen, and just like typical Zoom life that we've learned in COVID. So my declaration is, I apologize. I should have had my hat off and I should have been on my feet for that song. So my bad. Please, it's probably going to affect the immigration.
Nope.
But
Hopefully.
I meant no disrespect. I was not protesting. I was just rocking to the jam.
Yes, absolutely. And doing production work and everything. How about you? How you doing, Mike?
Good, brother. Good, brother. How it's we got a little bit of our Texas fake winter like a week ago. I think it's already over though.
Oh, did it get down to like 40? And you guys were...
Yeah, ish.
29.
Yeah. No, actually we had like a 36. I don't think we've had a freeze yet.
We have not.
We've had-
We did get low. We did get
Yeah,
low.
You had some
we've
cold-
been we got the 30s.
You had some
With
cold
the-
days
with-
in December. I was watching the weather. There's a couple days Austin was colder than Buffalo. Just saying.
Yeah.
It was like weird. Just cats
Well,
sleeping with dogs, but it was 2020 then. So
I mean,
Yeah.
but Austin's always cooler than Buffalo.
cooler. Yes.
Ooh.
Gotcha.
Burn.
I'm with you there. Got a better governor. Got a better governor. I'll give you that. You're Republic of Texas, not the socialist state of New York.
True.
All that. But yeah, it was 2020. Remember, we closed out 2020 saying, man, we're almost out. We kept winding down. We were like October, November, December, we're almost there. We're getting out of this terrible year. Let's get into 2021 where it's getting better. Well, we'll talk
Hold
about that in a
my
little bit.
beer.
Yeah.
Hold my beer.
Hold
Yes.
my beer.
That's
Yeah.
it. But yeah, Doc, it's been a while. You know, we've had you on a lot, as we said. It's been a couple months since we had you on. A lot's been going on, and I want to welcome you back to the show. I want to welcome all of our viewers and listeners, and seeing the numbers climbing up there. Welcome everyone back to the show. As you can imagine, we're going to hit on a lot of topics tonight. As Toby was saying before the show, we kind of have a little pre-warm up. We're getting ready in our green room, if you would. And we were chatting about, what are we going to cover tonight, and how we were talking about prior to this show, because we've been off for the last couple of weeks. So we hope everyone did have a great Christmas and Happy New Year. But we were talking about how, it's going to be, what are we going to talk about in, 2020 was so, with everything with the campaign, it was crazy. But like 2021, we're going to have to really come up with some good topics and make sure we have solid guests every week and stuff to have something to talk
But this
about.
shit writes itself.
It does. It does. We don't have to worry. I don't know what I was worried about. I should just until there's something to worry about. But anyways, well, Doc, a lot of things we know we're going to cover some stuff that happened recently yesterday. We're going to hit on that for sure. But there's other big things going on in our country or news, and there's things going on with you personally. So I want to hit on that and kind of what you have going on.
Yeah. So, well, first and foremost, I want to say to everybody, thanks for tuning in. And so I don't get accused of stolen valor by anybody who saw me at HEB earlier today. No, I'm not actually in the nation's capital. I just thought this looked really cool. So I'm experimenting with some green screen effects. So I'm not trying to pull the wool over anybody's eyes and pretend that I'm Johnny on location or anything.
It looks very Jimbo Hansen. I'm just saying, it very much looks,
Well, that's exactly what I was going for. So glad I achieved it. Yeah. So I did during the COVID lockdown. I launched a business, which is called Graybeard Performance. We launched kind of limped out of the gate right around Black Friday because I had some merchandise on hand. I was going to wait till I had all my eggs in the basket and launch everything together, but I decided that, the pre-holiday season, which was just too much to ask for. So the inspiration for Graybeard Performance is from doing my own podcast, from being on your show, from being out in the public eye a little bit. I get emails every week, and I'm always getting the same emails. It's hey Doc, love what you're doing, thinking about getting into jiu-jitsu. I'm 48, and I did a couple years in the Army, or I'm 52 and I've had a total knee replacement, or I'm this, I'm that. What should I be doing? How should I be eating? What kind of exercise is good? Am I cleared to do this? What kind of supplements should I be taking? And I found out that it was almost like a template. I was answering the same questions all the time, especially when it came to diet, exercise, and supplements. And I realized that the answer I was having to give them, especially for supplements, was so long, because the recipe that I put together on my own and that I take involves it doesn't involve just like one-stop shopping, even though I've used Onnit as a sponsor in the past. I'm a big fan of their stuff. I kind of have to pick and choose, because I want stuff that's not for a 28-year-old UFC fighter. I want stuff that's for a middle-aged troll, which is me. So I decided to launch my own supplement brand, and that kind of morphed into this kind of whole lifestyle brand. So supplements will be out in a couple of weeks. The first 2 SKUs, which is a longevity formula, which is everything you need for healing, immunity, recovery, and just not feeling like an old broke individual every morning. And then an energy formula, because that was the one that I got requested a lot, is, hey, I need something. I don't want to take pre-workouts, but I need something to give me a boost. So those will be out in a couple of weeks. Right now at graybeardperformance.com, I'm selling the individual first aid kits that I've always been selling are there. I have Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu rash guards and gis, top quality stuff, pearl weave gis that have the Graybeard Performance logo on the back. They're pretty shit hot, if I do say so myself. I've got nothing but positive feedback on people that have seen them and people that have purchased them. So if you're a jiu-jitsu or a judoka, I highly advise that you pick one of these up. And keep an eye out for the supplements, which should be out, fingers crossed, by mid-January.
Do you possibly have some also a hair growth product out? Because I think Toby may have tapped into the. Did he get an early beta test or something?
You'd see like a pompadour right now.
Well, so. Toby just took his hat off, and I don't know. He went Duran on us or something. I don't know what happened.
Yeah. Duran, or was it Flock of Seagulls?
It may have been Flock of Seagulls. Here's what I do know. It has been 5 weeks. Toby has not put crap on that wall behind him. I just want to hit on that real quick for our normal viewers. That thing has been undecorated since he moved in there. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, I guarantee if he pans the camera out, correct me if I'm wrong, there's all kinds of stuff that could be on that wall propped against. Yeah, and he's looking at it right now.
He knows it.
I have a picture in my mind of exactly what it looks like.
So we actually, yes, the walls are still undecorated. Shout out, to employee of the month this month, Elena Olson. She's our new headquarters. She's putting on 6 wall murals, and so we have to we're repainting all the walls again because everyone knows I painted them last time and has an idea what that looks like. The good news is I was too lazy to take some of the tape off, so I don't have to retape everything while she goes back and repaints it. But you're gonna love the new wall murals that are coming on here, and then you'll have something to look at.
Good deal. Yeah. So go ahead, Toby.
But no, it's been a kickoff to the year, and I'm glad Mike's here with us. Yesterday, we were texting back and forth, like a lot of us were all texting back and forth, and it's like, man, but we're glad to start our year with Mike, especially knowing that he's launching a company. Graybeard's a great name. I might be part owner in a company that also shares that name. So not the same company, but so I got some love for it. So excited to see. And here's the thing: is like, so I'm not sure what episode it is, but it's a Mind of the Warrior, Mike's podcast. If you go back, and I'm trying to think what number it is. I think it's in the 30s. Him and another doc get on there, and they go through an entire supplement thing.
Yeah, that's with the
it was like, yeah, it was like drinking water from a fire hydrant. I was like trying to write everything down. I just have the luxury though that Mike's right down the street, and I'm like, hey man, let's link up and talk to me about my vitamin D, because COVID, even before COVID, some of the things that Mike was telling like his listenership and friends like myself to do were to like plus up on some of these vitamins, but also make sure we're actually getting the regular amount. So in my case, I was deficient on some, so yeah, I was having to plus up my dosage to get to where I should be, to a par of where I should be. And some of that stuff like makes a really big difference. Mike was harping about making sure you got vitamin C in your system, making sure you got vitamin D, making sure you got zinc, magnesium, and how like magnesium isn't as like, I think it was magnesium, right? That doesn't occur naturally as much as it used to. You only get it from certain earthy things, and you got to supplement.
Well, and the upside of magnesium is you can't, as long as you have functional kidneys, you really can't have too much of it.
Yeah. So it's like
those are all things that have been pretty key. We've been hearing about those over the last 8 months, 9 months, right? That those are things that a lot of people have credited for making it through all this and all that. So
now zinc you can get too much of, because the problem with zinc is you will actually you need copper too, and you don't need to supplement copper. You get enough of that, believe it or not, just in food. But if you get too much zinc, your body will sacrifice copper, and then you'll become copper deficient, which copper deficiency is pretty rare. But that's why I tell people, don't look at what the recommended daily allowance is. Toby, you and I have had this conversation before, and that's what you need. Don't say, well, more is automatically better, and say, well, I'm going to get double, and then boom, you're copper deficient. So
I think that's the problem Australia's had. and why things are so jacked up down there. You see how much zinc they put on their noses all the time?
I'm not sure that's the same, but yeah.
Which I'm pretty sure attracts great white sharks.
It
Oh, wait,
may.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, so let's talk about this. You are a doc. I mean, we had you on when this thing first started breaking. I don't remember. It probably was April or something, or I think it was April or early May. We had you on when this first started really taking hold, and of course, a number of times since then. But where are things now? Are there any updates you have for our listeners or us, and dealing with the vaccine, dealing with what we're seeing, this second surge and new strains and all that kind of stuff? There's a lot to go into. The whole show's, but I mean, thing you want to make sure you hit on, our listeners and viewers have heard.
Yeah, so it's kind of a good news, bad news, and a little bit more bad news type situation. So the good news is the vaccine rolled out, which Operation Warp Speed. This is unprecedented. Basically what they did is they leveraged there was some, we'll call it some existing science and research that was going down the same path from a little while back, and basically what they were able to do is kind of really quick dust that off and kind of pick up already with a bit of a head start in getting this off the ground, where in my opinion, even bigger than the kind of medical and scientific feat is the fact that they were able to cut through so much red tape and get governmental agencies on board to bless off on things. And people say, "Well, it's a rush. It's are you worried about it? It didn't get all the safety checks." No, I'm not concerned at all, because all that happened is exactly what we said. It went forward at warp speed. Whereas before you get to a phase and then you would file with the government to have a meeting to discuss what you'd found, and that they would take you a month just to get the meeting, and then they get the meeting and then they'd talk about it for a month and invite you back a month later and then bless you off to go on to the next phase. It was, "Hey, we're done. All right, send us your data." All right, data, all of the same data checks were exactly the same. They just recognized we don't need these bullshit wait times in between. Let's just get down to business, roll up our sleeves, and do our job.
So they removed the red tape. They didn't necessarily remove the quality checks or any of that.
Yeah, exactly. They removed all that fucking. So it's kind of like, huge portion of your audience is military, right, or former military. Imagine if you just decided, I'm going to pack up my shit today and go clear CIF, and you didn't have to have an appointment. Imagine how much quicker you could PCS or ETS, right? If you didn't have to have appointments for all this bullshit, you're just going to go to one stop. "Oh, I'm sorry, you need to make an appointment to get the stamp that is 2 feet away from my hand, that I could stamp your paperwork right now, but I have an appointment next Thursday where you can come and I'll reach 2 feet away and get that stamp." That's basically what happened.
Gotcha.
With speeding up the process. So none of the scientific things, none of the safety things, there were no shortcuts in that respect by any means. It was just, like you said, it was all the red tape that got cut out. So that's the good news, is we have a Pfizer vaccine, we have a Moderna vaccine. Some concerns out there because these are a different type of vaccine than has been used in the past. These are what they call mRNA vaccines. There is another vaccine that's going to be coming out at some point in the next year that's going to be a more traditional type of vaccine. So for those people that might have concerns, and I did talk to a virologist, a former Ranger Regiment virologist, which is, there's probably an N of 1 when it comes to that particular animal, who said, that he said, I have some concerns, just not that anything terrible is going to happen, any terrible mutation or anything like that. But he said, I'm young and I'm not being exposed, so I'm not going to be in a hurry to get this particular one. But he said, I'm not telling anybody they shouldn't do it. And he had a laundry list of reasons as to why, none of which are concerning. And he agreed that for me, being a middle-aged physician, it was definitely the right thing to do. So again, that's the good news, is, the vaccine is launching and the rollout is going pretty well. I have regular communications with people in the UK, in Israel, Spain. Israel is probably doing a little bit better than us as far as efficiency of getting it out, but It's a much smaller population. It's a much more homogeneous population. So that's completely to be expected that they'd be a little bit more efficient in that regard.
Right.
So good news. Bad news is we are seeing a spike in cases. And no, I don't think this is a spike in cases that can only be attributed to more testing. This is a legitimate spike in cases. And I can tell you personally, I don't like to use anecdotal evidence, but I've personally had a spike. I went from having, knowing cases, having some friends who'd had it and some coworkers who'd had it, and obviously some patients that had it, but no family until about 3 weeks ago. And now my familial cluster of people that I know directly, all of a sudden 6 people have it. Okay, so that tells me, and these are people in different cities, different vocations, not interacting with one another. This isn't 6 people in one household. Okay, this is people that are very spread out. So that tells me, at least anecdotally, that's some confirmation of the spike being real. Plus, just looking at the numbers, I think they are. People, as we got toward the end of the year, started throwing out the death numbers again. Oh, it's not that fatal. That's a red herring number. That's not what you should be looking at. The important number is how many people are in the ICU, how many people are getting admitted to the hospital, because that's what's absorbing medical resources. And that is going up. And no, I don't have the numbers on that, but it is going up. What kind of compounds this bad news a little bit is the fact that we have this now more contagious strain out of the UK. And a big thing that separated COVID from the flu is, flu has an infectivity rate of, I believe it's 1.1 or 1.3. That means for every person that gets it, on average, they infect another 1.1 to 1.3 people. Whereas COVID has an infectivity rate of 2.5. So that means you're going to give it to at least 2.5, to at least 2 people. Okay, not any less than that. And that's what we've seen all along. And this UK strain is even more infective than that. Whether having the previous strains are going to guarantee immunity, or the vaccination is going to guarantee immunity, I haven't heard anything definitive on that yet. But I think it's, just like I got my flu shot this year, I got the first round of my COVID vaccine. My second round is in about 2 weeks. I encourage everybody, definitely get your flu shot. And yeah, flu numbers were down last year. Of course, everybody attributed it to, flu numbers are down because they're just calling flu COVID. No, that's not the case. Flu numbers are down because of all of the measures that we took to mitigate COVID. Okay, we already knew those worked in flu, right? Masks, social distancing. Japan has been doing those for years to mitigate flu. So that's the reason that the flu numbers were down.
Okay, interesting.
Like Mike was saying, anecdotally, I'm going to share, with our listenership, and I'm going to ask a question out of the chat room here in a hot second. But yeah, we went months and months and months where it was just like this notional thing. I knew that it was real, talking with Mike and, talking to other friends that are doctors or people in the healthcare industry. And, so yeah, it's real, but because, you don't see it, it's not tangible, it's not affecting you, it's easy to treat a certain way. My wife got it, brought it into the house. And, my friends, my business partners, them and their wives, their families. But the interesting thing is the kids. And this question comes from 18 series. One of my old battle buddies, one of my best mates, Mike Harris. And he had it. And he's got 2 little girls, and they were locked in at the house with him, and they didn't get it. In my house, we didn't change anything. We ate dinner together, we watched movies together, we still conducted regular family operations, because we had to do something so we wouldn't just sit there and think about killing each other. And 2 people got it, 2 people didn't. And it's it's interesting how that number works, the contagion number. And but there's definitely I know in my circle, in my experience in the last month and a half, the last 60 days for sure, it is like a real thing. Seeing it with now, luckily, I only know one person that has passed away, and it was the father of a friend. But like for the most part, like it seems like almost everybody's getting it. And like now I know a ton of people that tested positive and were asymptomatic as well. But it's like it's in the beginning they're like, oh, only 0.00000 whatever, or will ever like get it. But it's like, I bet that number of people testing positive is definitely not single digits. At least anecdotally in my world, it's definitely not single digits. It's double digits in terms of percentile of people like I interact with that have like had it or been in direct contact with it.
Yeah, I've seen it a lot too. I mean, I've been talking to folks that the first go round. You knew of people, you heard about people, and some people, but it just seemed that November to December time frame it was popping up everywhere. And I was telling someone a few weeks ago, I was like, it was every day I was hearing about somebody new, not someone new, like someone of somebody. It was like directly I know that personally, their families, not just in where I live, but like you said, cities all over the place, like friends of ours all over the place. And I was like, wow, this one seems to be. And this was, when the first one came around, people weren't taking all these precautions. We didn't know all this stuff and stuff. But now it's like everyone was already wearing masks and they were distancing and they're knuckle bumping and all that kind of stuff. But it was like this thing was just running rampant. If the other one out of the UK is even more contagious, then, I don't know what to think, because this one in this that seemed to start around October, really pick up in October, seems to be much more contagious than the one in the spring. We have a couple of questions, and I got one from a relative, and she probably doesn't think I can say this, but I want to ask you, Mike. Let me scroll back up to. So, do you know if in the UK people with leukoencephalitis? Tell me, Sarah, if I said that. Leukoencephalitis had a bad reaction to the vaccine, or do you know if anyone with that?
I haven't heard anything about that. So leukoencephalitis. No, I haven't heard anything specifically about that. I'm assuming she means with like a history of leukoencephalitis.
Yes, or been diagnosed with it before and that kind of stuff. Yes.
Yeah. I have not heard anything specifically about that. The catch-all answer to that is ask your doctor. Ask the doctor who is most in tune with your medical history if they advise you to get the vaccine or not. I know there are some concern. People with autoimmune disorders, severe allergies, things of that nature had some concerns. I know that I don't have any issues, and I'm considered in a higher risk group for exposure. On paper, I'm in the higher risk group for outcome if I do get it. Simply because of my age. I don't have any comorbidities, but for that reason, I was going to get it. So, this is a matter of, are you in a higher risk category? Do you have comorbidities that if you get it, you're going to do badly? And then if you have concerns for any other reason, you need to have that conversation with your doctor before going, once it becomes available at Walgreens or CVS or wherever, before going there and just showing up and getting it. That's a conversation that you need to have with your physician.
Yeah. I've also heard things about food allergies and other medicine allergies and things like that. And I've been hearing a number of different things around that.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's
one thing that I do want to say, because I've been debunking this about vaccines forever, is everybody keeps saying, well, it's got mercury in it. No, it doesn't have elemental mercury in it. So the thimerosal that is, if it is even in it, I'm not 100% sure it is, because it was taken out of all vaccines years ago except for the flu vaccine. So yeah, it may very well be in the COVID vaccine. And if it is, it's not mercury. Okay, it's thimerosal, which is not mercury, and B, the amount of mercury that is in one can of tuna fish is equal to 100 vaccinations. So if you're worried about getting vaccinated, don't ever eat tuna fish again.
Yeah, there you go. That's right.
I just ate for dinner.
Did you eat it? Did you eat it out of the can, Toby? Were you doing it like you're in the back of like you're in the back of a Humvee just with a cracker, just eating it right out of the can?
Well, you gotta do the can, and then you push the lid down and invert it,
Yes. Get rid of the
get
juice.
rid of the juice.
Yes.
And then you cut your fingers pulling the lid out in order to eat the tuna.
And hopefully you didn't pour the juice all over your ruck, which you weren't paying attention to, was sitting there.
Right.
So every night you're like, ah.
Well, some cherry private always thinks it's funny to pour the juice on an ant pile.
Yeah.
And that ends up turning out very badly in about 10 minutes.
Yep. Yep, absolutely. All right, so we're going to get into that. Was good stuff. We hit on a lot of good things there. Thank you for the questions and all that stuff that came up in the chat. Hopefully, Doc answered some of your questions and enlightened some folks. But we have to get into yesterday, right? There's no doubt. I wrote I read a blog post this morning, first one in a while, on the Stu and the Nunn page about it. I'll just open up by saying I woke up this morning just as I literally opened my eyes before I even looked at my phone, just disgusted, thinking about what I saw yesterday and thinking about I get, and so I wrote the post called Disgusted. I mean, it was just, I had no other way to name it, to see what happened, and not just the violence that happened and the breaching of the people's house and everything else, but everything that went around it, including the pontification, the shots from all sides, as far as, verbal shots and people taking this moment and twisting it to support their agenda, and just how the biggest thing is how we now appear on the world stage. I mean, as I wrote about in the post, we went from that shining light on the hill that everyone tried to measure against. We've always talked about, look, everyone wants to come to this country. No one's ever looking to leave, even though many people threaten, they never follow through with it. But, we went from being the litmus test of what a country should be like, what a democracy should be like, to, in my opinion, right now, we've been knocked down a few notches, if not a laughingstock by many. And of course, many of our adversaries and supposed allies have wasted no time in taking shots at us in the last 24 hours, verbally and on social media. But I wrote a lot already. I'll probably get into that more, but I want to kind of just roll it over to you first, Doc, and then Toby, get your input, if any. But just what are your thoughts on what you saw happen yesterday and where we are as a country?
Like you, I was pretty disgusted by it. I knew some people, some former SF guys who were going to the Save America rally. They met, they had a link up plan. They were there, to wave the flag, and kind of as a last, what they perceived as either a last opportunity to hear President Trump speak, or maybe more hopeful for a message of hope going forward. They said, he got up, he spoke, they said their goodbyes, and they dispersed, and they went to go get something to eat. And that's, most of the people there, I don't think anybody would argue that, probably 90% of the people who were present, that's the way they approached it. They went, they waved the red, white, and blue, and they listened to the commander in chief, and then they dispersed in an orderly fashion and went on about their business. And a few, so it's always a few people fucking it up for everybody, right? We say that all the time, and that's, again, this was an example of it, right? And whether they were doing it, I feel, at least in some of the individuals, this was a chance for them to grandstand and make a name for themselves, and kind of a photo op. And they probably looked at everybody else who they were egging on to join them in it as, nothing more than cannon fodder and pawns in the situation. But, I expected that there was going to be some type of probably angry line outside of Congress. I was fully expecting that. What I was not expecting was to see people on the political right, of which I am a member, actively engaged in fisticuffs with the Capitol Police. That was the moment that I think I totally lost my shit. I'm like, this is not who we are. This is not what we represent in any way, shape, or form. And Toby hit the nail on the head when we were texting back and forth. He says, kind of seems like we just lost the moral high ground. And I'm in 100% agreement with that. It's at that moment, we lost the moral high ground. And this isn't about, do people have a right to be upset and ask questions about this election? Sure. I'm not even going to rehash that. That's some people are 100% convinced there was no voter fraud. They're idiots. Other people are 100% convinced that Donald Trump got 80 million votes, and that the only possibility, there was only 40 million votes left in the country, and therefore it was mathematically impossible for Joe Biden to win. Those people are idiots too. So, it's getting lonely here in the middle on Sane Island, where the three of us reside, because we have idiots on both sides, and I don't want to get lumped in with any idiots. But every time, and you guys have experienced this too, every time you try to speak up and be the voice of reason, you get pushed to one extreme or another. 3 months ago, I was a Nazi for pointing out, you shouldn't be breaking windows, throwing feces, and setting fire to the courthouse in Seattle. So I was a Nazi for condemning that. Well, now I'm a pinko commie for pointing out that you should not storm the rotunda and get into fisticuffs with the Capitol Police and literally physically try to break your way into a session of Congress. And this isn't all the excuses of that's our house, they're our representatives, we have a right to go in there. You have a right to go in there in an orderly fashion after going through the entrance and going through a metal detector and walking in a proper manner, during the normal open hours in the proper format. Yes, you absolutely have a right to do that, but you don't have a right to go in and disrupt and basically be an asshole. Although I saw one thing today that was funny is they're storming into the rotunda, but they're all staying between the velvet ropes.
Yeah, between the row. I saw that. They were
Somebody pointed out.
Yeah.
It's like their basal instinct like took over that they needed to be orderly. But it's not who we are as a country, and it's this tribalism has gone way too far. And I understand. I've been calling for unity for years. I understand the anger at when they hear the girls on The View calling for unity when they've been slinging mud. Joe Biden calling for unity when he said such abysmal things about people. It's like, you slung mud for 4 years, now you're calling for unity. I understand the anger at that. Okay, I choose to rise above that for the most part, and I've tried to embrace a lot of my moderate and liberal friends and engage them in dialogue. Some I've been successful with. Some I find mutual ground. Some members of my own family, I've come this close to blocking some numbers because of hypocrisy. So I do want to get into hypocrisy on both sides, but I've taken a lot of the wind in the sails. So I'm going to let Toby speak before I get into that.
Well, I appreciate, as you yield your time to the distinguished gentleman from Canada.
Yield my time.
It's for the distinguished gentleman from Georgetown.
Well, we're both from Georgetown,
Oh,
so
good point. Yeah, from up the street in Georgetown.
Yeah. I'm East Side. No, so a couple of things that I just want to mention. First and foremost, we did lose the moral high ground. As rational, critical thinkers that typically I find, and again, this is my experience, the level of tolerance in my circle is a lot better than the level of tolerance in the peripheral of my circle. And the peripheral of my circle tends to be more liberal. I have people on, everyone knows I'm Canadian. I'm tolerant of everybody. I'm apologetic to everybody.
Sorry.
By nature. Sorry. But no, we lost the moral high ground, and what I mean by that is, all the things that I shook my head at and pleaded with people, to behave better, and said, we're not these people. We're better people than this. we can solve our problems in a more productive way. We live in the best country on earth. We don't need to like attack a federal building for months on end. And then we attack it. You know, like I too know people that went there. And my understanding was much like Mike's. The people that were going there were going so that they could hear really the last presidential address, not, you know, like not televised from behind the desk or the podium. The one thing that this president has really done that's, you know, hasn't been done in a long time is he has, you know, had fellowship with millions of people, and people have really appreciated that fellowship. And that's one of the reasons why like his merchandise is so big. It's like going to a concert and feeling like you're part of this family. You know, take it back to the late 70s and 80s, you know, with the Kiss Army. Like there's a reason why like people went to those concerts. It's because they felt like they had this fellowship. And, you know, and like Trump really provided that fellowship, not just with these campaign rallies, because he did the rallies when he wasn't campaigning. You know, like even post campaigning into his term, he would still hold these rallies and have that fellowship with the people. And that's one of the reasons why, like, you know, his merch sold so well and his message sold so well. And so a lot of people I knew that were going to this event, they were going to this rally, you know, to kind of get that last experience, because it's a big show. It's like going and watching the Vegas Knights start hockey. It's unlike any other hockey game. You know, you got a guy pulling a sword out of a stone, and there's dragons, and there's guys beating drums. Like that shit wasn't in hockey before. And that's like going to a Trump rally. It's like this new experience, and it's exciting. You got his son out there, you know, like as his hype man. And you got like, you know, that dude's hot girlfriend that's, you know, hyping him up, you know, like you got all this stuff. And I totally got that. Where I got lost is when I heard the words come out of the president's mouth encouraging people to go there. That was completely unnecessary. 100% unnecessary for him to encourage people to do anything other than share in that moment with him. He knew without a doubt, he cannot claim naivety. He cannot claim ignorance. He knew exactly what he was doing by saying, go down there. And I got an issue with that. Like, this might be the first time I've had a major issue. Like, bro, like you broke the law, son. Like you incited that. 2, security. The Capitol Police Force is one of the most robust police forces in our nation. And they're trained to deal with a lot of different things. And typically they're usually prepared. Yesterday, it looked like they were so ill-equipped, unprepared, and just like in awe of what was coming. Like they had no idea.
Let me ask something real quick, Toby. I want to ask you about that question, because this is something that's been kind of made me wonder why the security was so lax. Do you think that there was, like, if it was the other side, if it was a major Antifa / BLM or whatever other protest that has had a history of violence, do you think they'd have been more prepared, or do you think they really thought, well, no, this is the right? They leave the area cleaner than when they show up. They're always respectful. That kind of. Do you think they were that? Do you think it was that? Or
I think that's definitely a factor.
Okay.
And that's the historical data that they're working on. Anytime that there's been a rally, that there's been this stuff, they have left things cleaner than when they got there. They have, you know, they haven't engaged in violence against, you know, law and order. They have actually done the protest peacefully. And This was such a departure. And I also, like, if I was, and, you know, this is going to sound a little cheesy and, you know, Canadian, if I was one of the commanders on the ground there and I saw a bunch of dudes carrying American flags starting to storm something, man, it's a bad optic to like start, you know, like putting violence down on our own flag. Like,
right.
It doesn't matter who's waving it. Like, that's just a bad optic.
Right.
And, you know, like, and that one shot of the guy like pleading with that one dude and like constantly yielding space you know, and like going for his baton and then just being like, please, man, like don't do this. Like, don't put me in this position. I think, you know, like law enforcement as a whole, they don't want and they don't relish and they don't take joy in engaging in violence against the citizenry of this country.
No, I agree, and I think I had heard rumors that some of that was they were told to kind of take a light hand and that kind of stuff because you know you know either they thought it was don't escalate it, right? We don't think they're going to escalate, being the protesters, so don't escalate it. What kind of got me was the ironic image of one guy who had the blue line flag, right? The Blue Lives Matter, the blue line flag, like crashing through the windows and you know going inside. Like, that's an oxymoron. Like, dude, you can't be holding that. You can't even be holding a flag and doing it, right? Because what we're talking about is a constitution, the Congress, whether you like it or don't like it, they were doing a constitutionally mandated action. If you want to be heard, be out there and raise your voice. But you're trying to break in and stop something that the Constitution says and our founding father says must happen and needs to happen. You can't call yourself a conservative. You definitely can't call yourself a constitutionalist if you're trying to stop that to happen because you just don't like the outcome, right?
I'm gonna let Mike go back on the hypocrisy here in a quick second, but I have like one last thing that I want to touch on because Mike brought it up, and it's just like this tribalism, cultism, and a dear friend of mine, a guy I play hockey with. I love him dearly. He lives downtown Austin. He's a great dude. Democrat. You know, he put up a message in a thing, and he was kind of like, hey, you know, all my friends that are like, you know, Trump supporters seem to be a little bit quiet today. And, you know, and it was, he wasn't quite saying, I told you so. But he was kind of like saying, hey man, like, you guys got a lot to say about some of these other things, like, and you know, again, like that's the high ground. And and I commented, I got in the conversation, and I was kind of like, hey, there's a lot of policies that this president have that I support. I openly support them. I'm a business owner. You know, like I liked our economy. I'd like it to come back. So yeah, there's some things about Trump that I really like. I don't condone what went down today. You know, like, can't. There's nothing about it that I can condone, I can endorse. And I got told, and this is why I want to bring this up, I got told that because I supported, you know, like his policies, I am responsible for what happened. And like, and that got echoed and echoed. And at first I didn't respond, you know, because I was like, come on, I'm not going to take the bait. I'm not going to take the bait. But it just kept echoing and echoing and echoing. And it's like, and people just started messaging me like on the DMs and just being like, blah, blah, you this, you not. And I got called Nazi. I got called all kinds of things because like I had the courage to say, well, there's some things about this president I really like. Now, I don't like what happened. I don't like what he said. I don't like what those people did. I don't endorse it. I don't condone it. I live in this country because you can have a voice without having to do that. This isn't Venezuela. This isn't, you know, some place where we have to like take our grievance, you know, like and crash. We're not Jacobians. This isn't the French Revolution. It's not some bullshit. This is the greatest country on earth, right? So like I got called Nazi, and the whole thing was like, well, if I supported, you know, like one thing that Trump did, I'm therefore responsible. And like, I got to tell you, being told that angered me in such a way. And I tried to fight and resist, like having an answer, but I couldn't. I had to respond because that's the most ludicrous and absurd statement that I've ever heard. And this is where we're failing each other. Like, for you to say, because I support some things that Trump did, some of his policies, and, you know, and I've enjoyed and benefited from them, that I'm responsible for all the bad things that happened, especially yesterday. I'm responsible for like the seditious behavior of, you know, a small group of people. That's akin to like saying, if you like sandals and the way they feel on your feet, you're complicit in 9/11. Like, it's the most ludicrous bullshit I've ever heard. Right. Like, you know, like take a horrible thing and be like, the Holocaust? Well, if you like Trump, you're part of it. Like, come on, bro.
Yeah.
Like, oh, the Twin Towers, you like sandals? I see the Birks. I see you wearing Birkenstocks. Fucking terrorist. Like, come on. Like, we got to be better humans and better neighbors than that.
Yep.
Like this cultism, this tribalism, this like,
because it's one stream or the other. There's this lack of being able to but part of that's a cancel culture, right?
Part of it's that, but I got to tell you, I watched to make sure that I understood what was going on. I watched 7 different mainstream media outlets yesterday and this morning to make sure that I was like capturing what was being said and what, you know, like, and to prepare. Everyone in the media is fanning the flames.
Oh,
you know, they're like, hey, this is the 25th Amendment. He should be gone. Why is he still in office? It's 902. Why is his name still president? Oh, and then there's the other side that are like, you know, the election was stolen. We had to do this, you know, like you can't make heroes out of fucking jackwagons that like break into a building that you can just walk into. Like I've been to the Capitol building. Everyone in this chat has been in the Capitol building. Like, you know, don't be a jackass. Have your ID. Don't carry a gun. Leave your pocket knife, you know, like in your suitcase back at the hotel room, or unless you live there, you're leaving in your car, and, you know, and like go in there and be a civilized member of society. Yeah. Like follow some very basic rules. You can still be like, when you see the videos of guys following people around, filming them, trying to bait them into things like legislators and stuff. But you went in there and you stormed the very people that you asked to be in that room. You asked them to be in that room to do that job. And then you go in there like a jackwagon, you know, and you don't need to do that.
Well, like Mike said, right? Some of them were getting photo ops, and you know, it sounds 100%. Like the facial recognition and the photo ops are turning out great for him because
you're wearing whatever that ass clown was wearing, you know, the buffalo head and the brown sweatpants because he doesn't know how to do laundry, you know, and like with that weird ass face paint. That dude was there because Burning Man got canceled, and he needed like his Photoshop. Yeah. You know, he needed his photo shoot done, like, and then a couple of them people taking like war trophies, and, you know, we're in a group chat and I saw the immaturity on some of it. Like, if I was in there, I'd take a dump on so-and-so's desk. It's like, come on, man. Like, if you were in there, we might stop being friends because like, I can't trust you to be an adult.
Right.
You know, like steal something. But anyway.
So Mike, let's talk about the hypocrisy and what you saw there.
Yeah. And there's plenty to go around. So the initial hypocrisy that I was exposed to, and I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus, but I got a text when it was all going down, and I had even posted. I didn't, and those of you that follow me, I have not necessarily shied away from politics. I definitely didn't on Twitter, and in the past on Instagram I hadn't either. I didn't post anything on Instagram about this. So the only people that saw what I did post was people that are on my personal Facebook. But I did post something right away on my personal Facebook. And basically my first reaction was, because I had heard a lot of chest thumping in the previous month or so from some, mostly from some retired SF guys. Oddly enough, the loudest chest thumpers were the ones who had never seen combat and probably couldn't get off the couch if they needed to. But you know, all of the "my oath is never expired" and, you know, blah blah blah, Civil War, blah 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 blah. Yeah, okay, whatever. You're the toughest guy in the cul-de-sac. We all get it. So, you know, all this talk's going on again, and this wasn't from any of the guys that I knew who physically were going there. None of them were doing that. You know, they were, you know, American patriots, you know, orderly citizens. I'm sure if they saw a can on the ground while they're there, they picked it up and they threw it away. And I was like, my post was, you know, okay, if you're one of the guys who's been rattling your saber and thumping your chest, this is what you asked for, you know. So hey, guess what? You know, if you're at home watching it on TV, So you gonna speak up or step up, or what are you gonna do? Because this is literally what you asked for, and you're seeing the product of it. And I was pissed off. So I was already in a pissy mood, and then a family member who is on the left end of the spectrum sent me this text, and it was just 3 letters, WTF ? And I'm like, I'm not getting into this. So, was my response. And the response back was, oh, you have to be just as upset as I am. And my response back to that was, you know what? I haven't heard jack shit from you over the previous year while the Seattle, City Hall burned. So I don't want to hear jack shit from you now.
Right.
Because if that didn't bother you, and not only that, but I can't believe you're surprised, because this has been normalized all throughout 2020. This was normalized.
Acceptable behavior. #resist. Right. 4 years ago. 4 years ago. People, #resist.
And what are the buzzwords that we heard? Right. People have a right to be angry. Protests are not supposed to be peaceful. Protesting is supposed to make you uncomfortable.
Get in their faces, right? Get in their faces.
Get in their faces, right? Get in their faces. This is the way we make change.
Yeah.
Right. This is all the bullshit that we heard over the last year. We heard a lot of justification, right? Reporters saying, basically we have a million versions. CNN, MSNBC, they all have their own versions of Baghdad Bob up there saying it's a peaceful protest as police cars on fire behind them, right? And you hear gunshots in the distance. But it's a peaceful protest, right? So we've seen massive hypocrisy from the media and from those on the left, who now all of a sudden it's an issue. And the one lame ass excuse that I heard today was, well, this was an insurrection. No, because they went into, if it was an insurrection, they did it wrong. They did it unarmed. They went into the wrong building. And they obviously never had any intent on staying there for a long period of time. Seattle City Hall was a legit insurrection. They even called themselves an insurrection. Okay. This same jackwagon who was saying today was an insurrection, who I'm not going to get into, he didn't have shit to say about that. All right. So massive, massive, massive hypocrisy that we're seeing. Now there's pearl clutching and hand wringing because it's people that they don't like, you know. And I said the only 2 things that are different are it's Washington D.C. instead of it's the capital of the country
instead of Minneapolis or Seattle or Portland.
Right.
So
location is different and political leaning is different. Nothing else is other than they're not smearing feces and renaming areas.
I don't think any stores were robbed yesterday. I don't think any Targets or Louis Walmarts were broken into, but I'm not sure.
And their gender pronouns were probably different, and I didn't see any vaping. Okay, so we basically outlined all the differences. Okay, massive hypocrisy on the left. Now let's talk about the hypocrisy on the right, because there's plenty to go around for everybody. So 5 months ago, the hypocrisy was mostly peaceful protests, right? Actually, some dipshit today was trying to tell me that, it's been determined that 97%, I don't know if it was the actions of the people were peaceful. And then out of the 3% that were violent, most of those were neo-Nazis disguised as Antifa. No proof whatsoever, right? So immediately yesterday, I saw the same hypocrisy, the same Antifa BLM mainstream media style hypocrisy from people on the right. And they were couching it literally in the exact same way. And I had one guy tell me 1 million people showed up to the rally and only 50 people stormed the Capitol. I said, first of all, there's no way that was 1 million people. So if you look at the aerial photographs, and we have aerial photographs of the Capitol Mall going all the way back to the anti-war marches of the 1960s. That's, they have a system down, I'm sure you guys are familiar with it, where they can do that aerial photo and they can tell you exactly how many people are there. That's why, I don't know how many of your listeners remember the Million Man March, which was actually 800,000 people. And there was a big to-do because they did the count. It was 800,000 people. And they put it side by side with the whatever it was, 1.5 million from the Vietnam March. And it was obviously different size. My estimate of the crowd yesterday from the picture that I saw was about 300,000. Okay, because it looked
that's
to be
more than I
slightly
thought.
less.
That was more than I thought. That's pretty good.
Yeah, it looked to be slightly less than half the size of the Million Man March. You know, and I looked up old photos to kind of to couch my response to that. I said, first of all, it wasn't a million; it was 300,000. I said, you know, if you can prove it's a million, prove it's a million. Second of all, in one picture alone, I could count about 75 people storming the Capitol. Okay, so it was definitely more than 50 people. You know, let's say it was more like 100 to 200 people. Okay. Now, it's still a minority. It's less than 1%. I'll give you that. Okay. But immediately having your response try to scale it, to downplay it is not, you have to come out with a hard line to distance yourself from that. And then of course, within hours were all the conspiracy theories that, oh no, these were busloads. My uncle was there. He saw a busload two busloads of Antifa being escorted in by state troopers and given access to the Capitol. Oh, so your uncle's literally the only man on the fucking planet that doesn't have a smartphone and couldn't film that.
Right.
And then somebody did post a video. They're like, no, here's the video. It's two buses, and one of them is from a rest home. It's those little square buses,
right?
From a rest home. Yeah, they're escorting old people to dialysis, is what you're watching in that.
Right. So they spun it to support what they wanted to do.
Yeah. So
right.
They're saying that the QAnon shaman that Toby mentioned, everybody's trying to say that he's a paid actor, that he's actually Antifa. Man, I don't know. I know there's tons of video out them of him yelling at Antifa and BLM at other rallies.
Right. Yeah.
And one in particular, he goes on this rant where he talks about, you know why you don't play chess with pigeons? Because the pigeon just knocks the pieces over and shits all over the chessboard, which I thought was a pretty cool quote. But, I'm pretty sure this guy's a QAnon guy. I've always felt like QAnon was basically a joke, that it's 10 guys, that 90% of the people going to QAnon are actually left-wingers looking for something to be pissed about. There's 10 guys doing it as a joke, and then 150 dumb motherfuckers who think it's all real. And then, 50,000 liberals going on there getting pissed off, because I never even heard of QAnon until liberals started throwing it in my face. I'll bet you read QAnon. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck QAnon is.
Yeah, I didn't know what it was, so I started hearing some liberal media outlets talk about it. I'm like, what's this? Everyone's like, what do you think about QAnon?
I said to a member of my own family, I said, I think you've had a joke played on you. I don't think there's any real conservatives there.
Yeah.
No, there are.
4chan.
What's it? Yeah, 4chan.
Yeah, it's on 4chan.
QAnon, I guess,
it's
is
on 4chan. You can't take serious.
Right.
Yeah.
No, but it's a good point you brought up, right? A good friend of mine that I work with, I saw some initial posting. I was getting you guys tons of stuff emailed or texted to me yesterday, and there were these screenshots of that jackwagon with the horns and they identified out of Arizona. And I went and looked at his Facebook page, and I just went through his Facebook page, and I was like, wow, this dude's a wackadoo, right? But a buddy of mine I work with was like, hey, did you see? And he started sending me stuff. So I was like, hey, there's talks. I was getting the stuff. I'm taking as face value. I hadn't had a chance to vet it, validate. I was working. I don't have time for that during the middle of the day. But two, part of me, I know in hindsight, last night I was thinking about it, was like, I couldn't believe that those who call themselves conservatives, those who call themselves constitutionalists, would be doing that, right? So I think part of me wanted to believe. And I think a lot of Americans on the right want to believe that it is Antifa or someone else. There's no way people that think like me, vote like me, that have the same values and beliefs in me would break through, would throw stuff and fight with Capitol Police, would try to break through the doors of the House of Congress and then sit up on the chamber and do that kind of. There's no way people like that. So, but he quickly pointed out, he found me some stuff last night and was shooting it to me late saying, hey, here's some other evidence. These people they're not Antifa, they're not this. And I read, like, oh, okay, pretty good. That's pretty solid stuff. Again, first reports out of the battlefield we know are always wrong, right? So that's why I wasn't putting I wasn't saying these guys are definitely this. I'm like, there's some reports. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But, it just, the one thing I reflect on, and I talked about this in a blog post today, is whether it's 300,050 or 300,000, 150, doesn't matter. The reality is, just like the peaceful protests, and I mean truly peaceful protests that happened early on last year in many of cities, including my own, that started out that way, turned bad when bad actors showed up and hijacked hijack the moment and hijack the initiative. And I've talked about it on the show a number of times that after the George Floyd incident and the whole arrest and all that stuff, it wasn't just our country. Our world came together and just aghast at what they saw, and everyone came together and said that was wrong, right? Even just based on the evidence we had then, and much less our country did, right? It was like, it didn't matter what side they were, left, right, center, purple, black, white, pink, it didn't matter. They said that was wrong. But when Target stores started getting looted and people were pulled up in a waiting line to get their friend to bring them out flat screens, and when businesses started getting burned and small minority-owned businesses were getting destroyed and all this stuff, that's when everyone said, well, apparently this isn't really about George Floyd anymore, right? It's about someone trying to get some free stuff. And when we saw what happened in New York City with Louis Vuitton, Macy's, and all these stores in Chicago getting wiped out in minutes, it kind of took all that. It's like, well, your cause isn't really a cause anymore. This is all BS. And I know people that took part in the protest downtown Buffalo, and I know people that feel very strongly about BLM and all that kind of stuff. I know they don't feel that it's okay to go rob a store and do all that kind of stuff. I think that precedence was set. Right? That precedence was set, just like it was set to get in their face, just like it was set to say, go disrupt them when they go eat meals with their families and all that other stuff. I think it was you earlier, Mike, that said it. It's been normalized, right? So I think some bad actors on the right, including a female Air Force vet, thank her for her service, but she screwed up, right? And she did something she shouldn't have done, but they breached the trust and what that whole side of the political party feels about being a law and order party. They did the wrong thing, and they need to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Maybe the people last year didn't, and maybe the people that stormed in that couple's yard and now they're getting charged, and all the people got let go by a biased prosecuting attorney, and all these judges have let people out and didn't prosecute them. That's terrible, but that doesn't excuse these people, and they should be held to the fullest extent of the law. And maybe that will start to tell everyone, okay, we need to do that. We got to quit only picking people that think certain ways or do certain things and prosecute them. Everyone needs to be held even under the course of the law.
What was that thing that our parents would say to us, like when we were in kindergarten? 2 wrongs don't make a right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we people don't remember that anymore. It's pretty basic.
Yeah. No, I think, Troy, you're touching on something, and so I share in the sentiment. I agree. If you, just like Mike said, if you weren't outraged, you didn't have an issue with what happened, this summer and spring and fall, then you got to give these guys a walk. If you were bothered by what happened with the protests, the looting and stuff like that, then you got to stand by and say it's time to punish these guys. I know about 50 some were arrested. That's because that's what they could physically get their hands on at the time. I'm impressed that they got 50, because it looked like the force was struggling, and but they retained order. I want to definitely give a shout out, to Congressman Jason Crow, former Ranger, stood his ground, made sure everyone got out. Because you got to remember, some of these, members of Congress, they're not in the best of health. Some of them are feeble, sickly, and I'm glad that he stood his ground and did the right thing in there and made sure everyone got out, and in true Ranger fashion was the last man to leave the battlefield. But they do need to punish these guys. One of the things that I'm interested at looking at is by the time it comes up for their punishment, right? So they go through the arraignment, discovery, and by the time it comes to trial, we are now going to have a different, and this is all federal property. These are all federal offenses. Now we're going to have a different federal judicial administrative, group. So I'm interested to see are they going to be punished with the same fervor that was held on some of the people doing the shenanigans in Seattle, Portland, Dallas, and some of these other locations, Albuquerque, Minneapolis, Kenosha. or are they going to be like crazy, zealously, punished because it's like it's our turn and we're gonna take it to the man. So I'm gonna be curious about how that goes. But I really want to mention when I was watching the different newscasts, six of the mainstream outlets that I was watching all brought up the effect that social media had in fostering this hatred and promoting it. And so, like, if it wasn't for social media, this rally wouldn't have happened. If it wasn't for social media, people wouldn't be emboldened. And when you look at the videos, there's all these like citizen reporters, with their cameras and their little GoPros, and they're like, I'm gonna wear like my helmet and put press on it so I can be part of it, just like we saw with all the Antifa like riot, bullshit. So like, does social media hold some culpability? And the reason I'm asking this question is because social media canceled the president. And like, if that isn't as alarming as what happened on the Capitol, it should be. Like, we shouldn't have like social media people making the decision to cancel the account of the president of the United States, whether you like the dude or not. I had a lot of bosses I thought were assholes. Like, it's still my boss. Like,
which is
you don't like
which is
the
the
guy,
whole,
but that's the president of the United States.
which is the whole reason he
If you
wanted
allow this to happen.
Yeah.
If you allow this to happen, and I know like the Ayatollah still got his account, and all these other shitheads around the world, ISIS still have their accounts. Like, if you cancel the president of the United States, that's also sending the message that the word of the authority of the government is worthless. Like, think about the actual message that that's sending. Like, when Biden does something that they don't like, are they gonna be like, fuck this dude? You know what? Like,
but is it retaliation for his wanting the rollback of the Section 230? I mean,
it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying? I mean, that's part of the reason why he wanted that, right? Is that they've been able to take these actions, and they're not just
he incited this, we got to take it away. It's like, bro, like, you're just as culpable. If you're saying the president's culpable, which he is, because he said the words and he told the people to go down there, like, he's culpable,
right?
But so are they.
Absolutely.
Like, I mean,
and so
like,
is the media. You talked about the outlets this morning at the gym. My gym, they have TVs all around, and they put them on they don't put them on CNN, MSNBC, or Fox. They put on all of what they consider the middle news outlets, right, and the financial ones. And it's always interesting because every time something big has happened, when I go to the gym, I notice, you always see those montages where they show, you'll see it sometimes where they'll show 7 different media outlets all use the same verbiage, right? It's like they all got the script and they say it this way. And it's every MSNBC, CNN, CBS, ABC, it doesn't matter who they are, they say the same thing. It's like, do they all get, the talking points? This morning it was siege. Siege was everywhere. It was like the Capitol under siege, and like, I wouldn't call it under siege. It wasn't under. It was the House members, and like you said, some are feeble, some they can just fight their way out or whatever. They left, but it was they use this term. But this morning it was literally every different network, and they all had the same ticker at the bottom. They all had the same thing, but it's been this way for the last year, if not more, right? But I look at that and I think they're just as much to blame, right? Again, if it bleeds, it leads. That's the nature of their beast, and we all know that. We know there's not too many any real journalists out there anymore because they're all opinionators. You just got to figure out, right? We hear that from the Project Veritas tapes, where they've got CNN boss there sitting there telling his people what to talk about, what not to cover. So it's none of them can be looked at that way. But I think just as culpable as the social media are the ones that were watching, like all of us yesterday. And like you, Toby, you mentioned multiple outlets. I'm sure you saw the same type of verbiage being used, and it's getting people worked up. It's like attack on our poor Congress, attack on our poor police officers. Wait a minute. I 4 months ago you were talking about defund the police. Like you thought that was cool. Like it was cool to defund the police. Let's get rid of that.
All of a sudden, cops are cool again.
Cops are cool again, right? It's just it's like the military's bad, all that kind of stuff. When did the left become the war hawks, right? When did the left now all of a sudden become the one that want to always send us to war?
When did
right?
they stop?
Right, but it's always they were supposed to be the peaceniks, and the Republicans were the war hawks, right? The Halliburtons and the the Cheneys of the world always wanted to go after war. Now you have it's left and right. We saw it with Boko Haram. We saw it with we saw it with Libya. All of a sudden it was the left that was always jumping in every war. Now we have the left going defund the police for a year, and the police are bad and take them away and put social workers on the street to. Now, how dare you attack a police officer and those poor police officers, which they were put in a bad spot yesterday, right? Mm-hmm. There's a reason why the Capitol Police chief resigned about an hour and a half ago, right? Mm-hmm. And the sergeant at arms at the House resigned earlier this afternoon, right? They were ill prepared, whether they thought there wasn't going to be any riots or they thought that, whatever their reason was, right? They were asked, the Secretary of the Army offered up, what do you need from us? And the mayor of D.C., who I think is also very much to blame here, said, I only need 350 on standby, right? Mm-hmm. And it took yesterday when the shitstorm was building up, that Secretary McCarthy said, you're getting all 1,100. But they're not on a dime. They're not like sitting they're not on green ramp, right? They're at work. They gotta recall them and muster them.
The last time we had a competent D.C. mayor, Rutherford B. Hayes was in office. Okay, that is a long and illustrious list of incompetents, morons, paint chip eaters, and crack addicts. So there. Not only should there's all this talk about making D.C. a state and giving them the right to vote. We should 100% go the other way. They should become a municipality. If I had my way about how DC would be run, also, of course, I would literally have a dorm building built next to the Capitol, and that's where everybody they would live in a dorm. Okay, and I think basically that we should just say it as everybody within the grounds of District of Columbia. You're a government employee. This is a workplace. It's not a city. Let's stop treating it like a city. It's a place of business. So let's just declare the entire thing, national park or a government building or whatever you want to do, and we treat it as such. And then we should have an administrator that runs it, not a mayor. Nobody should be electing the person that runs that, because nothing in DC has run properly for at least 100 years.
No, good point. And we saw it come to fruition yesterday. So the hypocrisy is everywhere, and you can't. Someone mentioned earlier, Doug mentioned it. I forgot what term he used, but my old commander, General Abrams, who's still 4-star general in today's Army, told me when he's my company commander, selective compliance. Those who comply with the laws and the rules when it benefits them only. We're still seeing that today, and unfortunately, we're seeing it at the highest levels of our government. Regardless of what you felt and how you think about this election and what you think about Congress, which has always had dismal approval ratings, they were carrying out their constitutional mandate yesterday. And for any person that broke a window, broke anything, or went into that building when they shouldn't have, is absolutely it's just disgusting. Like I wrote in my post, there's nothing else to say. You cannot call yourself a constitutionalist. You can't wave a Gadsden flag or a blue line flag or an American flag or anything and do that, right? It is an oxymoron. You cannot do both, because either you believe in the Constitution and the Founding Fathers and the documents that they drafted for this country, which means you go along with it. And if you don't like it, there's a process to change it. Fight for that. Or either you believe in all that and you don't. You can't believe in both, or only believe in it when it's convenient. There's no such thing as a part-time patriot.
No, you're 100% correct.
I will say that one of the things I did like seeing today and yesterday, and I guess the common thread in the people sending the message, they were veterans. Senator Tom Cotton, the great state of to our north, Arkansas. He he was out there, like talking about, how this is unacceptable, and like, we need to, pay attention to the task at hand and not get distracted by this. We should not conduct ourselves like this. Dan Crenshaw, a congressman out of the third district here in the Republic of Tejas, had a similar message. And the reason I bring this up is because, a lot of people, like are going for this two wrongs now versus the right. And like, I don't want to see Nancy Pelosi being harassed in a restaurant. I gotta be honest with you. I just think that's classless. There's so many ways that you can get on her calendar, that you can get at her. You can, talk to a staff member. I don't want to see people harassed the way that we've seen them the last 4 years. I don't want to see members of legislature telling people, in broadcast, that they should disrupt people's dinners, bang on their doors, threaten their families. I don't want to see that. Like that just shows, like a superficial level of immaturity that's just so below the character of this country. And I'm excited that we have some leaders in there that and they're kind of our stars too, right? So, Kamala Harris was like, do this, protest violently, do that. Like, that's not helping. So I'm excited to see that some of the leaders, are like taking the time to be like, no, let's not be those people. Let's be better. Let's, like this whole like get over it or whatever. I don't care if you get over it or you don't. The bottom line is the country's moving forward.
Right.
In a week and a bit, a new dude's getting sworn in. We're going to see a woman sworn in for the first time. Like the country's moving forward. And like same thing, that we said, to all the people before, like, if you're on the plane and you're hoping that the pilot crashes, you're part of the problem. Like this is going to be what it is. And you have the option. You can go lobby your member of Congress. You can go like voice your grievance. You can take grievance. You can stand outside the offices. But man, when you like do what happened yesterday, like you just show that like I'm an old school guy. I think if you like commit what could be considered like a federal felony like that, I think you should lose your right to vote forever. Forever. Like that's just me though. Like when you like disrupt the system in such a way, like you don't deserve the right to participate in the system anyway.
And should not be a representative as part of our government if you're encouraging people to break the laws
right.
of our government.
Absolutely.
Right?
And with that, like I think like if they go after the president and like like he did it. Yeah. This isn't some Russia scandal. This isn't something. This isn't some phone call that could be interpreted a certain way, or him voicing his displeasure with some dude in Georgia. Like he got on a stage behind a microphone and told people to go somewhere, knowing like that they were going to do it.
Yeah. Speaking of leadership, I want to ask Mike about this too. Is today we've seen two announcements. We see President-elect Biden, who's soon going to be in 13 days going to be sworn in as a president. I think it's 13 days. Yeah. Came on and gave another speech, talking about everything that happened yesterday, I guess, or talking about it, but making remarks about had this been a BLM protest, it would have acted different. It would have been this and stuff. To me, really still flaming the fanning the flames, if you would. And then, tonight, right before the show started, I saw the announcement the president had a video he was releasing, and I'll be the first one to say, I saw his message yesterday, and I was not encouraged by it, right? The message afterwards, I was like, it seemed like he could have came out a little bit stronger, right? I was expecting him to, and he really, for the minute or so it really didn't cover what I think it should have in light of what was happening. But today his video was, and I was cringing, but praying that when his video came out that it would be a little bit more positive than what I saw from him yesterday, and definitely from President-elect Biden today. And it was unifying. It was saying, hey, we're going to do this right. There shouldn't be. It was what I expected. It was subtle, or not subtle, but it wasn't grandstanding, and it seemed to be like the message I wanted to hear, and the message this country needed to hear. I would have really have liked to seen President-elect Biden, who has called people that voted against him, and on the right, he's called them names all through the campaign, but said he also was going to be their all president. I would have liked to have seen him do the same thing. Mike, do you think there are two messages? Granted, one was done before the other. Do you think that's reflective of their leadership style, or anything, or do you think any of it was surprising about what you saw, either from President Trump being kind of calm, or President-elect Biden being kind of inflammatory?
What I'm about to say is going to be immensely unpopular to everyone on both sides of the political aisle. But what else is new? I think the statements were a reflection of what their handlers told them to say.
Yep. Absolutely.
And I know that's people laugh when I say that, because I always talk about handlers, and that's a term that I've been using going as far back as the Clinton administration, because Bill Clinton was the classic example of a politician who was handled. Nothing came out of his mouth. There was no action that was not a product of his handlers and his coaches. He was very much a manufactured individual. I think that this is going to be disappointing to some people. I think that was a lot less true. It was certainly less true of both of the Bushes, especially W. That guy, what you see is what you get. And I know people who have spent extended periods of time around the man, mountain biking and golfing and everything else, and they're like, no, that's it, man. What you see is what you get. I won't say that Barack Obama was a president that was basically coached by his handlers. He was just somebody he was a little bit more like JFK, and he knew how to turn it on and turn it off. And I've been in a room and shook hands with Barack Obama, and I found him to be a genuine individual. I didn't think he was bullshitting and checking his watch so he could get out of there or anything like that. Didn't vote for him either time, and I never would. But I don't think he was somebody that was handled. To a large extent, Trump was not, because he likes to go off script, and he's his own man. I mean, he's got a big ego. Some people would say narcissist. I'm not going to go that far, but he's got a big ego. I mean, he wouldn't be who he is today without having a big ego. So he would go off script a lot, and a lot of people that were trying to corral him were cringing in the background. And sometimes what he did, Shapiro talks about it. You got good Trump and you got bad Trump. Sometimes you have one of either. 75% of what you see of President-elect Joe Biden is handlers. So that's very, very, he's very tightly on script. They don't let him get off script. So everything is about script, and you can see it from statement to statement in him. You can say, look at syntax and verbiage and pace on one day compared to another day, and you can go, okay, person A wrote that and person B wrote that. I mean, they're obviously different. But both of the statements that you saw today were a product of handlers, right? In the case of President Trump, so let that being said, which is, like, as I said, going to be immensely unpopular, President Trump was smart enough and presidential enough to go, yeah, that's the message we want to go with. Not one of my Twitter storms kicking up shit. You're right. That's what we need. That's what we want to go with. Whereas the mental capacity of President-elect Joe Biden was, all right, which way am I looking? And going on script. Okay, so that's basically what you saw. Yeah, that's basically what you saw. There was one particular statement that I want to address that President-elect Biden made twice, which is he used the term domestic terrorism. And out of hand, I don't think you can't make that assumption. So an act in and of itself is not. It can be terrible and terrifying, and that doesn't make it a terrorist act. Terrorism is about intent. And I even saw somebody who got an online master's degree in counterterrorism this was a few weeks ago, posted some bullshit that was completely wrong. In one of the Drinking Brothers forums, it was going around, everybody was making fun of it. because it was just so ridiculous and how she was defining terrorism. But terrorism is about intent. So, if these guys, if this legit was spontaneous, hey guys, it'd be really cool. It'd be a lot cooler if we stormed the Capitol. If it was something like that, that's not terrorism. That's bad judgment and it's criminal, but it's not terrorism. Now, if they've been planning this for months, we're going to go down there, we're going to get in the rally, we're going to start identifying some people to use, and then we're going to go over there, we're going to do this, and we're going to put the fear of God in sitting representatives of Congress. That's terrorism. So, but the onus of proof is on that. So it certainly has the appearance that it could be, but that's not, that's a word that I cringe when people throw it out there.
Yeah.
And going as far back as the Las Vegas shooter, I had to provide some education to a couple of British individuals who said, undeniably, this is terrorism. No, you use two incorrect words there, undeniably and terrorism, because you know nothing about his intent. This guy could have been under the influence of drugs. It could have been a brain tumor. This could have been a, hey kids, get the fuck off my lawn type event. We don't know, it's rare. A lone wolf terrorist is willing to sacrifice himself, knowing that the terror that he planted is going to be useful to the cause later on. And there's still no evidence, not to bring up another conspiracy theory, but there's still no evidence that anything like that was going on with the Las Vegas shooter. Just like not everything that gets charged as a hate crime is an act of terrorism. That's an argument that I've had with people before. Somebody can attack somebody because of the color of their skin or where they worship, but that doesn't mean that they're doing it. Certainly what happened in Christchurch, that was an act of terrorism.
Yes.
Right. 100%. No denying that. That was fucking terrorism.
Yeah.
Right. But, if some guy, gets drunk and decides to throw a Molotov cocktail at somebody's house because of what they look like or where they worship, and he doesn't like that, that's not terrorism. That's just him being an idiot.
The Sugarland, Texas shooting wasn't called terrorism, right? But a guy went to a church. It was
certainly terrifying.
Right. Either was an Antioch, Tennessee shooting that happened. It was just someone.
And you could make an argument. I mean, the guy was a card-carrying atheist with some anti-Christian views. And there's a very strong argument that was domestic terrorism. Now he's dead, so it wouldn't have played into how he got charged. But I think the fact that, again, going back to what we've seen over the last year, Chaz Chop, whatever you want to call it, that was an act of terrorism. I mean, that was deliberate, that was planned. They went around door to door and shook down citizens for protection money. That's certainly terrorism. So a lot of things that we've seen in the last year could be. What's that?
Definitely racketeering.
Yes.
Definitely racketeering, right? If nothing else, right? But if you have a preconceived plan to cause unrest and strike terror, and we saw a lot, Crowder had, when Jared Monroe was still working for Crowder, he did some of these undercover videos with these Antifa types, where this was good. I mean, it was shitty terrorism. It was middle school level terrorism, by a bunch of people with no upper body strength, but it's still terrorism. The fact that it was ineffective doesn't change the fact that it was acts of terrorism. So what we saw yesterday very well could be. I mean, obviously that guy didn't just, pick a buffalo costume and face paint off the next rack of the closet, right? So there was at least some planning and wardrobe that went into it, right?
I like it being referred to as the Chewbacca bikini, which I saw.
Yeah, there you go. And certainly if we find out things like people had gas masks in their bags, things like that, that's terrorism. That was one of the big arguments that I had against all these guys who were calling themselves street medics that were carrying around milk, which I think is hilarious because it doesn't work for tear gas, or they were carrying the eye wash and stuff like this. It's like, okay, so you're prepared basically at least to provoke to the point of that occurring. So that's very much borderlines on terrorism. So, if we find out they had things like bolt cutters and shit like that, then it was terrorism.
They came with an
Right?
intent.
They were going in there to force entry, and this was their intent from the beginning. From the beginning.
Yeah.
But again, they're gonna have to prove that. Now, looks like our new Attorney General is going to be Merrick Garland. Has a pretty staunch anti-Second Amendment background. Probably not going to be friendly to any of those individuals that you saw on camera yesterday. So I think that's the type of prosecution that you can expect to be brought to bear.
Yeah, no, I thought we were going to get done in 2020 saying like, these are interesting times. But I think we still got at least another year of interesting times ahead of us.
Yeah, man. I don't know. Other than alien invasion or God forbid something like another 9/11. I don't know what it's going to take to unify this country. But it breaks my heart how divisive things have become. I sling poo, but I always do it. I always do it more with an eye to the comedic aspect of it, and I don't. People that came on my Twitter feed with legitimate responses, that come to my Facebook feed with legitimate responses, or my Instagram feed now with legitimate responses, I don't belittle their opinions. I'm even nice to vegans.
What?
Yeah.
How dare you?
I don't belittle their opinions, but when you hit me with extreme crap, and I had to block some anti-vaxxers in the last few weeks because they're hitting me. And if you come with me with extreme crap, if you're a moron, and you're allowed out in public unsupervised, I'm gonna make fun of you for it.
Yeah.
That's just the way I am because I think it's warranted. But anybody that comes, again, I've got left-leaning and moderate friends, and I don't sling shit at them. Only the ones that are hypocrites, that are that truly drank the Kool-Aid and are brainwashed with IQs barely above room temperature. Those are the only ones that I really needle into. Everybody else I try to treat the way that I want to be treated, and I don't see. We're all the same. Tim Kennedy did a great video yesterday, and he said, remember that person that you're attacking, that's another American. And in the end, we're still in this together. We can't, and it's damn near a 50-50 split.
Yeah.
So, I got to tell you a concern that I have, man. I got to legit, because with all this talk of the 25th Amendment and impeachment and everything else, I'm worried about the future of the Republican Party, simply because, and again, I'm going to say something I voted for Donald Trump twice. I really wanted him to get another term, but a little part of me is worried that he doesn't give two shits about the Republican Party, and he'll flame some shit on his way out, and I think he should be allowed to serve out his term. I don't think the 25th Amendment's warranted. I don't think impeachment they wouldn't have time to get through anyway.
They wouldn't have time to do 25th, I don't think, because it has the process.
But let him sit out his term. Let him make he's made one really good statement, although they're largely ignoring it. Let him serve out his term, and go on and do what he's going to do. And I think maybe he's got that message, but I don't.
Well, he just had a second cabinet secretary just resign during the show. So
yeah, a lot of people are jumping ship.
Yeah,
man, and I understand that. I don't call them traitors. It's going to be really hard to be associated because of, Toby, what you said. Because of what he said and what happened afterwards. People don't want to associate with that. People want to have lives.
Yeah.
And to the people that go, oh, they're fucking traitor. Okay, are you going to go to Mike Pence's house and stand guard 24/7 for the rest of his life? Are you willing to do that?
No.
Okay, because hey, toughest guy on the cul-de-sac on fucking Facebook, nobody knows who you are, so you can shoot off your mouth all you want. Mike Pence has to live in the public eye, is living in the public eye for the rest of his life. Okay, it is what it is. All these, whether you talk about Lindsey Graham, people that I have agreed and disagreed with, Mitt Romney, whatever it might be, they're stuck out there, for the rest of their lives. And for every crazy bastard on the right, there's a crazy bastard on the left, and somewhere there might be a pipe bomb with somebody's name on it. That, just aside from the fact that you have to look yourself in the mirror every day and say you stuck by your convictions, you did what's right. I disagreed with John McCain probably 50% of the time, but I don't think he was a sellout, and I think he always did what he thought was right. I thought it was wrong a lot of the time, but I would never take that away from him.
No, I mean, like, like you just said, are you going to be the guy that's going to sit there and, stand by his door the rest of his life? And, a lot less caused a shooting on a softball field, and a lot less caused a member of Congress, mowing his lawn to be attacked. So, we just need to be better neighbors. Like, it's a new year, we're going to a new administration. It's a great time to renew your personal perspective of being a better human, being a better person, and
renew your faith,
and practicing what you preach, and like, don't be that guy or that gal, and definitely don't fucking wear those brown sweatpants and wear whatever the Chewbacca bikini, because that just discounts everything you said.
Yeah. Well, look, the world didn't end when Barack Obama got elected. It didn't end when Bill Clinton did. Or granted, the military almost ended under Bill Clinton, but that's because what he did. But, I mean, it didn't end when Donald Trump did, right? And you know what? It's like my pastor said during the last elect campaign 4 years ago. These leaders are mortal men that come and go, right? It's going to change. And in fact, they don't even go 4 years. They go 2 years, pretty much, right? Before usually everything changes over in Congress. So, at the end of the day, this is going to come and pass, and someone else is going to come in. No one ever thought on the right that when Barack Obama got elected, not once but twice, that a Donald Trump would step into the picture and do all what he did over his 4 years.
I remember people saying when Barack Obama got elected a second time, the talking heads on the news were saying the Republican Party was dead.
Right.
I mean, they were literally saying that. Now, they neglected to notice some things like the fact that Barack Obama got 4 million less votes when he got reelected than he did in the first election.
Right. That's because the Republican Party couldn't put anyone up worth a damn up against him.
Right, because Mitt Romney was milquetoast. But the big things that I keep hearing, kind of the defeatist justification I keep hearing from the right is, well, the election was stolen, and so if we can't have a fair election, then it's over. And I don't know what to say to that. I'm not an expert on any of this. My bellwether on a lot of these things is Ben Shapiro, because I think he's a voice of reason. And, you listen to him and he basically, debunks a lot of that stuff. You can't say all the people that you've been listening to for 4 years now in the last 2 months have suddenly become turncoats, myself and Ben Shapiro included, right? It's, we were either right then or we're right now, although I'm wrong a lot, or we've been wrong all along. So you can't have it both ways. And our election process is our election process. I think we do need to continue to move towards a system that makes everybody happy, that, we've eliminated the possibility of voter fraud and not disenfranchised anyone. I think we need to be, that's all of our civic duty to move forward and do that. And hey, guess what? If you're complaining about the way the elections went and you didn't volunteer to work at a polling place, go pound sand. I don't even want to hear it. And then also, and nobody's going to disagree with the fact that, yes, big tech is against the right? We're censored on Twitter. We're censored on Facebook. Is our Parler and these other things going to be an outlet for that? I don't know. And the mainstream media, yes, is 100% in the pocket of the left. I don't know what to tell you, man. Other than the fact that people have fought more insurmountable issues over the history of time and have beaten them. So this too shall pass. All right. Hey, guess what? If you're just totally fed up, then just look at what you're doing at a local level. I bet, your average person can name way more members of Congress than they can their own city council members. Yeah. So, if you're fed up and you think it's hopeless, then work at the local level. work. Yeah, work on your city council, work on your mayor, your local sheriff, constable, whatever that might be. And if nothing else, maintain your island of sanity and everything else, like we're trying to do here in Georgetown, Williamson County. So.
Hey, before we're about to wrap, but before we go, I've been trying to say it for a little bit. One of the people in the chat is a big fan of Hunting Hitler, and they wanted to say it. So Scott Bauer wanted to pass on his greetings that he's a fan of Hunting Hitler. But hey, it was great having you on tonight. What a way to start the year, and here we went almost 2 hours. Count the green room time. We've been doing this for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Excited to hear about Graybeard supplements. Tell everyone where they can find Graybeard. We have your IG, Dr. Mike Simpson up there, but where can people find out about the rash guards, the pro woven geese, and the soon to arrive supplements?
Yeah, so go to graybeardperformance.com. It's Graybeard, Grey, but if you spell it wrong, I've arranged to have you redirected anyway. So it's graybeardperformance.com. I'm on Instagram at Graybeard Performance. Make sure you give us a follow there. I try to put up some educational and inspirational stuff each and every day. It's not going to be anything like the Dr. Mike Simpson accounts. It's going to be a lot more positive, especially going forward in this year when I think we all need it. So if you need a little bit of a boost, a little bit of help with your New Year's resolutions, I started mine a little bit early. So mid-December, I stepped on the scale and I didn't like what I saw at the time, and I'm about 12 pounds down from where I was then. So doing things right. I'm doing 2-a-days all this week, and an hour of that every day is on the Peloton bike. So I'm having a little trouble getting used to that.
Oh, you like getting yelled at by strangers, huh?
Yeah,
yeah. Peloton's been happening in the Nunn house every morning. Yeah. Even like the little workouts, like non-bike. Household 6, and I get up early and been knocking out these Peloton workouts.
Nice.
Toby, you could call me. I'll get on there and yell at you like we're back in the unit. What's funny is ever since I put the Blue Lives Matter hashtag with my name, I don't get high fives during rides anymore.
All right. Thanks everyone for tuning in. A big shout out to our sponsors. Alpha Elite Performance coming in, Commodity Outdoors, Veteran Outdoors, boohammer.com, but don't go there today because it's got some technical difficulties. As always, Enlisted 9 Fight Company, you can find their great apparel at 9lineapparel.com. But outside of that, appreciate everyone tuning in. Mike, always a pleasure.
Yep.
You have my vote for third host. You have my vote. We'll get you with Rob, the unpaid producer, who's been splashing all your information, all your different places. He's got your links up and your, even drmikesimpson.com up there. So appreciate you coming on. Always a pleasure. Appreciate what you're doing for the community. And I can't wait to hug your neck here in a couple of weeks when you get your second shot and, you're safe. You're safe. You're safe again. And maybe I'll do one of the two-a-days with you. We should be working out together. I don't know why we don't.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Dude, we should, man. OPEX, shout out to OPEX Round Rock, my gym, and the great people there, man. It's they really make it worthwhile. So
awesome. Good deal. Well, hey, thanks again, Mike, and thank you everyone for joining us here for our first show of 2021. Boy, it was a doozy, almost 2 hours, like Toby said. A lot of great commentary in the chat tonight. For those on the Facebook chat, the other ones I'm not sure. A lot of great viewers. Be sure and join us next Thursday here on Stu and the Nunn, 8 o'clock Eastern, stewandthenunn.com. Hit us on all of our outlets and everything like that. With that being said, I'm going to throw on our outro music, and we're going to bid everyone a good night. Well, that wraps up another episode of the Stu and the Nunn Show, and we hope you had as much fun listening to it as we did hosting it for you. Don't forget to like our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter. You can find all these links at stewandthenunn.com. We will talk to you again next Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. Also, we'd like to thank our sponsors, Commodity Outdoors, Veteran Outdoors, Enlisted 9 Fight Company, Warrior Media Solutions, and boohammer.com. Thank you again, and have a good night.